Path of Exile 2's next big update is seemingly just around the corner, and GGG have been dropping some teasers in the lead up to 0.2.0. Yesterday they unveiled a few new unique items that are coming out with the next patch. Now, unique items in Path of Exile 2 have been a bit hit and miss, or mostly miss I should say, as most of them are incredibly weak beyond the early campaign, and they very quickly get outscaled by moderately decent rare gear. However, for patch 0.2.0, we're getting at least 2 new unique items that are going to be strong deep into endgame. Firstly, we have Prism Guardian, a returning unique shield from PoE1 with a new spin. That 3D art is incredible, by the way. So, Prism Guardian does unfortunately continue the trend of very low basic defense values on unique items with an extremely low amount of armor and energy shield, and it also doesn't have a life roll. However, its unique mod will more than make up for that. Prism Guardian provides a good amount of dexterity as well, which is likely to be useful for gearing or support gem requirements, and it also grants at least 18% to all elemental resistances. This modifier may even roll up to 20% or higher than that, so that's a great stat to have too. But the most important modifier on this one right here is +1 to maximum spirit per 50 maximum life. So this item will provide a way to scale your spirit and thus be able to reserve more spirit against powerful persistent buffs or more minions by scaling your maximum life. Anytime there's a way to scale offense by scaling your defense, it's a very strong tool to utilize, and the balance on this one will need to be just right. The interesting thing about this modifier is that we currently don't know just how GGG plans to address life in the upcoming patch. Whether they're going to improve access to life scaling to compete with Energy Shield, or if they'll be leaving it just as it is and nerfing Energy Shield is yet to be seen. But taking a ballpark of 3000 maximum life, this shield would be providing 60 maximum spirit, which is enough to reserve 1 or 2 of the lower cost persistent buffs, or to enable some extra minions. However, interestingly, we already have a way to scale spirit from maximum life in Path of Exile 2, and that's on an Ascendancy notable on the Infernalist Witch Ascendancy. Baydat's Will reserves 25% of your maximum life, but in return grants +1 to maximum spirit per 25 maximum life. Combining this notable with Prism Guardian would allow you to massively scale your total spirit purely from life scaling, which is going to be really strong. Keep in mind that there's likely to be some new abilities coming in 0.2.0 as well, so there could be new spirit reservations to utilize too. An important note about Prism Guardian is that the spirit gained from life will only account for your maximum life total. It will not include any overcapped life that you have, for example on the Blood Mage. Up next we have a crazy new unique helmet, the Deepest Tower. Now, unlike Prism Guardian and a bunch of other PoE2 uniques, this one actually has a decent life roll, breaking GGG's untold rule of no life modifiers on good uniques. Jokes aside though, this is just a very good unique item. It grants an okay amount of armor and energy shield, and a very good chaos resistance roll, which is the equivalent to a tier 2 roll on rare gear. And then it has a special modifier. Enemies in your presence count as being on low life. Now, important to mention here is that low life in Path of Exile 2 is 35% of maximum life, not 50% like it is in PoE1. So getting a monster to low life takes a bit longer, and in turn makes this modifier very strong in combination with some other mechanics. Firstly, the Witch Hunter Ascendancy has 35% increased damage with hits against enemies on low life on the small connecting nodes on the Coal branch. These damage increases will just be active all of the time because any monsters in your presence always count as being on low life. More importantly than that though are the nodes on the passive tree, as these are usable by any class or Ascendancy. This 2 notable cluster right here near the Mercenary start location provides a crazy damage increase with the Deepest Tower. Each of these small nodes are 30% increased damage with hits against low life enemies. And to put this into perspective in terms of how powerful these nodes are, 30% increased damage is about 2.5 times as strong as a normal small damage node. For example, this 12% increased damage while dual wielding here, or 12% increased damage with two-handed weapons here. So just the small nodes on their own are very good, but there's also 2 notables. Firstly, finishing blows for another 60% increased hit damage against low life enemies, and also some increased stun build up there too, so that's just more of the same. But perhaps stronger than that is the Stars Align notable, which makes your damage rolls lucky against low life enemies, meaning you'll have lucky damage hits all the time, which is really good. On an average crossbow damage range, this is about 20% more damage, for example. But this can be significantly stronger for something like flat lightning damage, where the roll ranges are much larger. Then over here is another small cluster for more bonuses against low life enemies. This is towards the outer edge of the warrior side of the passive tree. Another 2 small nodes with the same stats, and the finality notable for a massive 120% increased damage with hits against low life enemies. That's crazy, but it does come with the downside of making you take 5% increased damage while you're on low life, which can be quite bad, but remember once again, low life is 35% of maximum life in PoE2, so you need to be brought down that low before you actually start taking increased damage. Now, one thing to note about both of these clusters on the tree here is that the Titan's Hulking Form notable, which makes small passives have 50% increased effect, will boost all of those small nodes from 30% increased damage to 45% each, making this helmet incredibly powerful on the Titan. Now, whilst those nodes on the tree are going to be very much worth taking with this helmet, some builds may not even be able to reach that location of the tree. But even without access to those tree clusters, the deepest tower is still going to be useful simply because of the existence of Execute, a support gem that provides 40% more damage with hits against low life enemies. This one is crazy, as it immediately becomes one of the strongest, if not the strongest damage multiplier support gem in the game, and is made even better considering the limit of 1 support per character. You often struggle to find good support gems after you have several links set up, and Execute becomes an S tier support, likely replacing and freeing up another support from your main damage link to be usable elsewhere on another skill. Overall, 2 very good unique items being teased there, which is more than can be said about the previous 2 uniques that were teased a few weeks back. One of the other teasers we had in last night's post was an image for what looks like a new Mercenary Ascendancy, and by the sounds of it, we'll be getting multiple new Ascendancies in 0.2.0, and I believe by this they're referring to the current classes and not just lumping in any Ascendancies that will be coming with the new classes, if they do come in this patch, like the Druid or the Huntress. So expect the 3rd Ascendancies to come for some of the current classes, at least for the Mercenary that's going to be the case. This one looks like perhaps some kind of War Commander or perhaps a Tactician of some kind. It looks like possibly a spin on a minion class, but there's also a Ballista there. This makes me think of the Tactician Ascendancy that they showcased at the 2019 Exile Con, which I believe was a Ranger Ascendancy back then, so perhaps that's become a mercenary concept now. We'll have to wait and see for that one. For now, we still lack a concrete date for 0.2.0, but if it's going to be coming on March 21st, as some expect it might, then we should be getting the classic announcement of the announcement later this week, so look out for that. Thanks for watching this video, and as always, stay tuned and stay safe.